Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership at TEPSA. And each episode, I look to bring you a different guest who has encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another and bring them on to share some of their story in hopes that it inspires you to share some of yours. I'm thrilled today to have my friend Matt Foster on with me. Matt, tell everybody who you are.
Hello, Todd. Thanks for having me on. I'm a learner just like you. I'm an educator and a dad, a family man, and I fail at fishing
Fail at fishing. Oh
all
my
the
gosh.
time.
Well, I'm going to have some questions about that in a minute, considering what I know we're going to talk about later in the episode. But I first want to talk about, your own kind of path. When I interview educators, I love to kind of see, when did you know education was in your path? Did you grow up knowing that that was what you wanted to do, or you fell into it later?
I love hearing stories where teachers are like, "Yeah, I've always wanted to be an educator," or coaches are like, "Man, I love sports and I love inspiring kids." But it wasn't that way for me. I've always loved playing with Legos and building things. I
Uh-huh.
think that's where my root in education is. I love building, creating, and learning things. And the spark hit um, second year in college. Dr. Joyce McCauley, she was my literacy block teacher, and I thought I was going to be a preacher in life, and
Uh-huh.
so I thought education would be a nice side career when I'm a poor preacher. You know, you can afford to teach. But Dr. Joyce McCauley changed the whole thing for me and showed me the fascination with how minds work and how kids learn, and really how you learn to read. And that really is the trigger for me. That one professor, it's like second year in Sam Houston State.
So when you knew that education was kind of in your path, were you more drawn to elementary, secondary, adults? Like, where was your interest at?
That's always been a tough question because I was the whole thing. I just enjoyed the process of learning and helping people in the learning. But it started with me in at elementary level, and getting into second grade, I think was my first teaching position. And their little world was not a little world. It's so big and so rich. And when I figured that out, I got into the classroom and just saw how they're fascinated with everything.
Yeah.
And I think they call second grade the country club position because it's right before testing starts. Um, I don't know. I think it's more like the Disney World level because
Uh-huh.
everything is magical with them.
Yeah.
And so I started there and went to fourth grade, third grade, fourth grade. Spent 6 years in administration. Went back into
Mhm.
the classroom, and then now I'm starting to work with adults.
Well, see, and that's what I love. Your work now, I mean, you do
Mhm.
so many, you have so many varied interests, whether that is, working with educators, working with business professionals, working with, technology and social media or design and all these things. I love that. I think you're the perfect example of our passion doesn't have to be just one thing. It doesn't have to be this narrow path where, oh, if I say I'm going to be a teacher, I can't do anything else. It's like, no, you can love to do a variety of things. And so now, with all the things you do, what are you finding the most joy in right now in your life?
Oh man, these unscripted questions are really tough. Where am I finding the most joy? Well, currently I'm working on a project to help first year principals,
Uh-huh.
and maybe that's where I'm finding the most joy because I remember that first 3 to 4 week period when I left the classroom and became an AP.
Mhm.
And I was an AP in a kindergarten building, and they gave me the building to myself, where the other AP and principal ran the first through fifth grade side of the building. It was two
Ah.
separate campuses. It was actually PPCD through kindergarten. So it was a totally different world. It was foreign to me. I never went that low in early childhood education. But I remember sitting in the office and thinking, my first 3 to 4 weeks, what have I done? I'm not ready to leave the classroom. I love it. Um, it's lonely when you're at the administrator. It's
Yeah.
lonely. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You don't have the buddy across the hall to come and chat
Mhm.
with you. You don't have the teacher's lounge. You didn't get a lunch break, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so I think right now. I'm having a lot of passion and joy in helping people in that transition from instructional coach to administrator or AP to principal's desk.
Mhm.
And then learning with the other superintendents I'm working with currently
Mhm.
and consultants who are pitching in on this collaboration, learning from them and seeing their perspective.
Yeah.
It's just it's mind blowing to see that
You
bigger perspective of what's out there.
Well, and I've always been blown away by you have such a unique knack at being able to kind of pull the just such great minds together to build something that just exists to benefit others. I'm excited to see as this grows and develops because I think like you said, this is such a need right now in our community because the administratorship is such a lonely position. There isn't a lot of great prep out there. I mean, just like with teacher prep, they can teach you all day long in your college classes what it's going to be like, but until you get in it, you have no idea what you are getting into. And so, when did you decide that you were ready to take that leap outside the classroom to pursue any of these things? When did you know that, okay, I think this is what's next in my path?
I think for me is when you get to that level of like it's not boredom but routine. You get that
Yeah,
level of everything becomes automatic. You know, when you're in the classroom, it's like, man, I know how to do this and this and this, and it's like autopilot. It's
yeah.
like that's a great place to be. I'm the type of person though, if I'm in that place too long, then the interest, the passion starts to decrease.
Mhm.
And when a passion decreases, I've got to switch. I'm one of those type of people, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I really admire people who are the opposite of that because I love the stability of just
Mhm.
trucking through the year after year. I think that's incredible, the deep roots and all of that.
Yeah.
But that's just in my DNA. It's just passion. If the passion starts to go down,
Mhm.
I've always tried to create different things in the classroom as an administrator.
Mhm.
Uh, but that's when I knew it's time to jump for me and build something new. It goes back to that Lego analogy. It's time to
Yeah.
build something new, right? I need a new set of Legos to play with.
And I love your explanation there because I can so resonate with that part of your story because that was the same. People always ask me like, "How did you know that you were ready to jump into administration?" And I was like, "Well, I felt like I was at the top of my game, and I felt like I really knew what I was doing." And I'm the same way. Like I will get bored really easily
Mhm.
doing things the same way I've done them, and I was like, "I'm ready to try something new. Like let's go. Let's take a new journey and a new adventure." Well, speaking of new journeys and new adventure, I think our conversation here will be unlike any that I have had on Tell Your Story before, because at some point in your journey, you and your family decided y'all wanted to live on a boat that you were gonna sell your house and go sail the wild blue. And so talk to me a little bit about where that idea even came from, and then I'll add some more. I'll have many more questions about this.
Man, I wish I knew where the idea came from. That might solve a lot of problems in my life if I knew that. No, I've always wanted. I love to explore, and I think that's the passion
Mhm.
for learning, right? And maybe it's part of my parenting. I want my child to see the world,
Yeah.
learn the cultures, learn the languages, and so yeah, we figured a boat might be the best way to get there. I don't know if that's the right answer to, to how to
So
learn and
okay.
see the world.
So you have this idea and you tell your wife. What is her immediate response?
Man, I wish I videoed that. I really do. Wish I videoed that.
Because I can just imagine telling my wife, like, "Hey, I've got this idea. Like, this is a big dream. Why don't we go and do this?" And she'd be like, "No, is there a target in the ocean? Then I'm not going."
Yeah, I think she went to process with her friends because she came back with the
Uh-huh.
question of, "How are we gonna wash our clothes?" She said, "I'm not washing in a bucket."
Yeah.
So, no, there's some challenges along the way. It's gonna involve, so my daughter's going into 6th grade next year.
Mhm.
So it's gonna involve some creativity when it comes to schooling,
Right.
whether or not we put her in schools in different countries,
Mhm.
or do something virtually. So it's going to take some creativity there, and I think we're going to meet a lot of cool people along the way, and that's always the fun part for me.
Yeah.
Not always the pathway, but those who you meet along the way, right?
So what's your plan? So I know that you recently were able to sell your house.
Hmm.
You have the boat now. I saw your blog post, and so you're actually broadcasting from the boat now. You told me you could get some Wi-Fi within 10 miles of shore. You said, and
Yeah.
so what is your plan now? I know Corona's probably screwed everything up, but
Yeah, that was scary, by the way, because we sold the house and we had a contract on a different boat,
Mhm.
and that was the week before everybody's spring break and everything started shutting down.
Right,
So we didn't have a home because we backed out of that contract on the boat, and we were able to squeeze into an apartment like just days before everything just came to a stop. That was ultra scary. And then we were able to get approved for a loan for a new boat, um, just the day before the credit union started turning off because of the
oh, wow.
small business loans that were coming out. So
Uh-huh.
it's like the doors were closing and we're just like
Yeah.
squeezing right in, for that doorbuster sale. So that's been scary, but everything seems to be settled now. Um, and we're going to spend 12 months. We're going to spend 12 months learning.
Yeah.
Just take some courses, get with some captains, and do a lot of learning. Do some large trips out to Florida, down south, Texas, before we take the trip to cross the Gulf and head over maybe to the Caribbean islands and then Central America. Mhm.
Wow. I'm just this is so cool to me. So you've got your life, you've got your home, you sell it. What do you do with all of your stuff that's not going to fit on the boat? Are y'all because I know when people like go overseas to work for extended amounts of time, that either they sell everything and take what they need to go over, or they get storage and store it, knowing that someday I might come back.
Mhm. That's been the toughest part, as you can imagine. Uh,
Mhm.
Learning what we really need in life to live with because we only
Yeah.
have 40 feet of home now. And so we have a transitional storage unit, and it's just slowly a process of minimizing to just those
Mhm.
things that we need,
Yeah.
and learning that for us, it's been learning that it's the moments in life that are making us happy versus the things, and that's
Yeah.
the biggest aha for me. If I can share a learning is when I started letting go of stuff,
Mhm.
I felt this freedom. Yeah,
Mhm.
it blew my mind, and I'm sure you've experienced things like that, and a lot of people have in life. But for me, it was an eye opener.
Yeah.
You spend 20 years building a house and living in it, and you know how things when you have a house, the
Yeah.
garage can get filled up, the attic. It's like where did all this stuff come from? And
Uh-huh.
so I realized, starting to let go of some of those things, just the freedom that
Right.
now I can just enjoy every minute of the day. I've seen more sunsets in the last 2 weeks, probably than I've seen in 2 years, and so it's
Yeah.
just been incredible. Yeah.
Well, you've got a sixth grader, you said, and
Hmm.
so she either is a teenager or is a soon to be a teenager that you're going to be on a boat with
Hmm.
constantly. And so when you tell your kid this, and I'm thinking back when I was in sixth grade, I can see myself having one of two responses, like, oh my gosh, yes, that's like the coolest thing ever. I want to be able to say I lived on a boat and went and traveled, and the other one going, but my friends, like, when do I get
Hmm.
to see them? And so how was that conversation with your daughter when y'all decided this was going to be a path y'all were going to go on?
Really hard conversation. So this has been a year in the planning,
Mhm.
hardcore planning. The idea
Yeah.
came about a year and a half ago. She had both responses. You were spot on. And so I think the lesson that she was learning is that life is a continual holding on and letting go process, right? And
Mhm.
so for her, that was the big aha. She's at a transition point in our school district here where they were going to be all going to different schools anyway, some of
Right.
them to science magnets, some of them to the GT campus, and some of them to the intermediate campus. So she
Mhm.
wasn't going to be able to see her friends anyway. So it kind of made a lot of sense on the transition there. Um, and then the social time is still after school. We can hang out.
Mhm.
Right now, we're here in the Kima area, so we can hang out, ride rides at the Kima boardwalk and all that. So she realized, oh, I can still do all the actual fun stuff with my friends
Yeah.
and not have the the secret fun stuff in class and get in trouble for it with my friends. So we've been doing that, and I guess the homeschooling, since everybody's doing distance learning right now,
Mhm.
honestly, that kind of worked out in our
Yeah.
favor to be able to.
Yeah.
She's like, all my friends are doing the same thing right now, so it really helped out. They got lucky on the timing, I guess. So very fortunate and
Mm,
honored and blessed to have the timing. But it's been a tough conversation. She's starting to learn Spanish because we want to go to Guatemala as our first Central American
uh-huh,
country, and so she's preparing for that. And there's some Spanish speaking schools there, so she's looking forward to meeting new friends in different
uh-huh.
countries as well. And we've met some. There's a few other families in the area that are doing the same thing. So she's met a few girls that are in the same process. So that's pretty cool.
See, this is I'm so split brained on this because part of me is like, oh my gosh, I still want to do this, and then part of me is like, what are you thinking? Like, get that out of your mind. That's the craziest thing ever. And so, when you are looking at the next 12 months, what are you most looking forward to?
Oh, I'm looking forward to learning how to be independent and free because that's the ultimate goal for us. Is so like we're yesterday we were measuring for solar panels, so we're going to be off the grid, so to speak. And so I'm looking forward to learning how that lifestyle works. I'm actually discovering there's a lot of people out there living this way. I
Yeah.
say a lot, 10 would be a lot because, like you said, it's a crazy idea. But then everybody we've bumped into in the area, they knew someone who did it, and so it's kind of like,
Uh-huh.
oh, okay, maybe it's not so crazy. Well, at least we could try to convince ourselves of that. But I'm learning. I'm looking forward in the next 12 months to seeing what opportunities await, and I think it all comes back down to learning, right? Your learning is the limitation on where and what you can do in life. And so for me, it's getting the learning, and for us, it's getting the learning that's going to keep us safe when we're crossing
Mhm.
the Gulf of Mexico, or
Yeah.
what's going to keep us safe if we have an injury aboard and we have to learn how to first aid ourselves.
Mhm.
So these things are really exciting to me because it's real life and meaningful learning. And
Yeah.
for me, I've always been a reader. I've been an academic learner. I love research. I nerd out about data. And so this is more of a real life learning opportunity for me, and I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
Well, you are gonna have one heck of a book to write whenever this
Mhm.
is over. But I guess my last question is about the boat stuff, and then I'll move past that. Is we're all in quarantine right now. We're
Mhm.
all with our family at home, stuck in our homes, but our homes are fairly decent size.
Mhm.
So how are y'all nervous about like being stuck within 40 feet of each other and no escape for like weeks at a time?
So we've thought a lot about it. So 2 weeks ago, before we started moving aboard, we were in an apartment transition place,
Mhm.
and it was a beautiful apartment, nice pool, but everything shut down, right? So we weren't able
Uh-huh.
to leave the apartment. So we would go for walks to escape. We would try to find ways to escape and entertain ourselves. But since we've come on the boat, it's been weird. Smaller place, but it feels like the world's gotten bigger because we really are spending every day outside, looking at sunsets and sunrises, watching the water go by. So it feels like the world has gotten bigger, even though our home has gotten smaller. If that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I guess the next question I would ask then is, and I want to tie this back into education and taking risks, and that is, sometimes as educators, we have these big ideas or we want to try and do stuff, and we feel constantly like other people are going to judge us, other people are going to talk about us, our own doubt and insecurities begin to creep in. When you make a decision that's so life changing, like going on this boat, how do you keep the varied opinions of others from controlling the way you feel about the situation?
That's a tough one, and it's something even in education, something I've struggled with all the
Yeah.
time because I love doing creative things, or I call it creative, different things. Sometimes they don't always work, but then when you do something different, you always face the criticism of others. That you're trying to stand out, you're trying to be different,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
you just do what you're supposed to do, and things like
Yeah.
that. And so it is something that I've struggled with a long time. And like I said, we've been planning for a year and a half with this particular life move. And part of that planning was, but what do other people think?
Mhm.
And what criticisms are you going to face? And even from like your own close friend group, what
Right.
criticisms, and are you going to lose any relationships? And so um, it seemed like there was a switch that said, hey, do your path and walk that path with all your passion, and then
Yeah.
the criticisms don't matter.
Mm.
It seems like when that switch switched, it was there. And honestly, I don't think in a school that switch can switch because everything is so networked and so close
Right.
into that building. But for lifestyle moves, I think it really worked for me, at least a little switch.
Well, I cannot wait to see all the lessons you are going to learn that you're going to be able to convey to others, not only about understanding what you're thankful for, but the time, the experiences, the opportunities. I mean, there's so much that can come from this. And so I can't wait to follow your journey throughout this entire process. But Matt, one question I always love to end all these conversations on is I believe as people, there are a lot of things that we hold really close to our hearts and our beliefs and who we are. And so for the people who are listening or watching today, what is one thing you wish they would walk away with?
This is so basic, so I don't know if it's going to help anybody at all. But for me, um, it's loving the people you love because you never know, right? And so
Yeah.
every moment, every day, just loving the people you love and valuing that above everything else. Mm.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, Matt, I admire you and respect you so much. And so thank you so much for coming on Tell Your Story today.
Todd, it's been fun. I really appreciate you and respect you a million times over. So I appreciate you inviting me.
Well, and thank you everybody for listening or watching another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you get your stuff, it's there. I hope today's conversation with Matt has encouraged you to get out there and tell your story because every story matters.